Today we will be having the lecture by Dr. Anjali Bajpayee, who is the faculty at BHU Varanasi, and there will be followed by the book release written by Professor Panchamukhi by our chairman, Sri Kailash Chandra Sharma ji. So the program is scheduled just a small program. Will be welcomed by our director, followed by glimpses of the photographs developed by Dr. A. Kulkarni and Sri Gurraj, and followed by the address by the speaker, Dr. Anjali Bajpayee, and about the book by Professor P.R. Panchamukhi sir, and release of the book by our chairman, Professor Kailash Chandra Sharma ji, followed by his presidential remarks. And the program will end with the vote of thanks by Dr. A. Kulkarni. Thank you, sir, and I now request our director to welcome.
Thank you, madam. So today is a very auspicious day for us because we are remembering our founder, Professor Vidyaratna, Professor R.S. Panchamukhi. Actually, this is an endowment donated by Professor Panchamukhi sir in memory of his beloved father and Vidyaratna. R.S. Panchamukhi sir, he has many credentials with him as a renowned endocrinologist of those days, wherein very few people were aware of this. And today, what we talk of Indian knowledge system, so these type of works were started way back, maybe 100 years before by Sir R.S. Panchamukhi sir. So basically, this CMDR, which was started as a wing of Karnataka Historical Research Society. So then took a different shape as a Center for Multidisciplinary Research. So then the term development was added under the leadership of Professor D.T. Lakdawala sir. Then Dr. Anjali was also a member of this particular process. So in that particular process, so CMDR developed as an institution since 1976 till date. So there are many things that CMDR has seen. And ultimately, the governing council of CMDR has decided that to organize this Founders Day either on the day of birthday of Professor R.S. Panchamukhi sir, or on the registration day of CMDR as a registered institution. But due to certain unavoidable circumstances, so today we are having this, and in the days to come, definitely we will be holding that. So with this, let me welcome at the Dr. P.R. Panchamukhi sir, who is the founder of this institution, and he served here as a director and the chairman of governing council. Wherever we go, sir, whenever I say that I belong to CMDR, I'm part of CMDR, the first and foremost name comes is just the institution established by Dr. Panchamukhi. So this is the thing that what we get. So we are very fortunate to have you on this particular day, sir. And it is more memorable that we are coming out with a book which tells the story about CMDR. So our chairman, governing council, Professor Kailash Chandra Sharma, has kindly consented to be to preside over today's program in spite of his busy schedule, because he was having several other meetings, but still he said that okay, I'll be there because this is a very important occasion. Sir, I welcome you on this prime occasion. And when we were talking about who can be invited here as a resource person for delivering today's lecture, because this has a very rich legacy, madam. So before this, 10 people have already delivered this Foundation Day lecture. So just let me quote some names. So Dr. H.S. Gopal Rao, a historian from Bangalore, Dr. Sudarshan Iyengar, who was a vice chancellor of Gujarat Vidyapeeth, Ahmedabad, Dr. M.B. Nadkarni, Dilip Gupta, Amit Baduri, V.R. Panchamukhi sir, M.H. Balasubramaniam, then R.K. Mautkar, Said Lu, and Satish Devdar. So these are some of the eminent personalities in different areas who delivered this endowment lecture, the Foundation Day lecture of CMDR. And on the 11th endowment lecture will be delivered by Dr. Anjali Bajpayee madam, who is the Dean, Faculty of Education, Banaras University. Madam has a lot of credentials with her. I will not be reading your biodata, madam. This much is enough. That I think the topic that madam will be dealing is education policy 2020 implications for the next generation. So whatever the things that what we are looking at for the as a new national education policy. So when we want to see its effect, it will take at least 10 to 15 years. So then only we start getting its effects. But what we are anticipating today, after 15 years, what kind of situation would be there? So that will we'll have some insights from Madam. And I take this opportunity to welcome you, Madam. Thank you for accepting our invitation, and today we'll be enriched with your inputs. So there are many invited delegates who are part of this program. I welcome you all who were part of CMDR earlier, Dr. Selvaraj and Dr. Geeta Rani and others. So definitely it is a kind of reunion for CMDR that what we can say. And I take this opportunity to welcome all the faculty members, non-teaching staff, as well as research scholars who are very much present here. So with this, now I request Madam to continue this program. Please, Madam.
So now we'll be having the animated photographs of the CMDR, which shows the development over the years and associated with Professor Panchamukhi, sir. Stop number.
Share.
We'll be sharing these photographs on the screen. Share. Stop here.
Stop.
Professor Panchamukhi. There. Read a special moments. Thank Dr. Kulkarni and Sri Gurraj for capturing these beautiful moments of struggle, development, activities, and emotions, all which brought together the memories back. Thank you. And now we will request our chief speaker, Dr. Anjali Bajpayee, Dean, Faculty of Education, Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi, to deliver the address. Please, madam. Please.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I pay my regards to Professor P.R. Panchamukhi, Professor K.C. Sharma, and all the distinguished delegates who are present there, and my very heartfelt thanks to Professor Jidli for having me there as a speaker. And of course, he has mentioned that we have had a list of 10 speakers who have been very renowned persons in their field. I hope I match up to their uh, the benchmarks which they have set up. Dear guest and dear everyone present there, I'll be talking on mostly on the NEP 2020, the policy of education which we have in the 21st century. Now, if you look at the policy, and I'll be just dividing it into various sectors, and then at the end, I will come to the implementation aspects of the policy which are there, which probably will give us our education system, which will be somewhat different than the present education system which we have, because the policy focuses on our ancient education system, merging it with the new developments that have taken place in the 21st century. So with that backdrop, I'll be talking of for the next 30 minutes which we have with us together. Now, if you look at the policy of 2020, this is not the first education policy which the independent India has. This is actually the third national policy on education, but it is the first policy of the 21st century. And if you look at the way, the time which has passed when the policy comes in 2020, it was almost 73 years of our independence. We were an independence nation of 73 years. And we were in a situation of a pandemic. The world was facing a critical crisis. But at that time, we come up with a policy which has its roots in our ancient Indian cultural and educational system. And it also has futuristic aspects for the learner of the 21st century. So that is how the policy comes into action on 29 July 2020. Now, when we have this policy on 29 July, if we look at how this policy was developed, like the first talk of having a new policy in for the 21st century began sometime in 2015. We have a commission which was set up under the chairmanship of Mr. Subramaniam, which had to look about the various aspects of the education system which are there in present times, and to give us a new policy of education. That committee, committee collected various suggestions, and they put on a draft to the Ministry of Human Resource and Development, as it was then called. And then in 2016, another committee was formed to review after these drafts. And we have a committee in 2017 under the chairmanship of the noted scientist, Professor Kasturi Rangan, who bring us a draft national education policy in July 2019. So before having this 2020 policy, we had a lot of deliberations on the various aspects of education, and the draft national education policy, which we have in 2019, was a voluminous document of around 700 pages. And that dealt on various aspects of education, right from school education to professional to research in education. Now, from this draft was put on the public domain, and it was put in front of people to give their suggestions right from grassroots level. It was on public domain, teachers across various structure, across various strata, people from various other aspects were also invited for their suggestions. And from this draft of 2019, we have our policy of 2020 in July. Now, this policy is around 105 pages in Hindi and around 70 pages in English. If you go through the various aspects of the policy, they have divided it into a basic introduction, and then it deals of school education, higher education, and other aspects of education like research, like technology, like lifelong learning. So that is how the policy is divided. Around in 27 points it is there. Now, each point, when you look into the policy, it talks of various aspects, right from, as I said, right from school education to higher education. The policy has given us a new structure of school education. It says that 10+2 structure, which was suggested by the policy of 1968, will have to do away, and we will have a new structure of 5+3+3+4. That is, the school education will now be having a foundational, uh, preparatory, a middle, and a secondary level, and it will begin from an early age. The basic idea behind this was that if we start early, then we can probably reach the same level which the other children are learning, because the policy said that the cognitive sciences, if you go back to cognitive sciences and you see growth and development aspect of a learner, we see that by till age of 6, most of the brain development takes place. And when we are entering our students into the formal education system at the age of 5, then many developmental years of their brain, their learning, their various psychomotor, affective, and cognitive domains have not been trained properly. So the policy said that we must begin early. That is, those who are haves and those who are have-nots should have a similar starting race point. The policy says already those who are in good places, those who have exposures, their children begin education from preschool by age of 3. But those who do not have, like we have the Anganwadi system in our country, but they do not have the trained experts, the trained people who properly give various skills, various sort of information to the learner of early age. So the policy said that we must have a formal system of education right from age of 3. So that is why they said the structure of education system should change from 5+3+3+3+4. So we'll have our children in a formal system of education by the age of 3, and since there'll be no uh, disparity between people of different areas, so all of them will have equal opportunity for access into formal system of education right from very early age. So that is one thing the policy begins with. Then the policy says we must focus on the holistic development of the learner. This is not something new. All our policy have been focusing on this, and they have been saying that we must look at the holistic development of learner. We must stop the lot of emphasis which is put on rote learning, lot of emphasis which is put on certain particular domains, theoretical learning. Rather than that, we must focus on all-around development of learner, a holistic development, and that is why the policy says we must have evaluation of a learner in the 360-degree aspect, that all aspects of a learner, that is his cognitive, his affective, his psychomotor aspects, should be given due emphasis in the learning process. And then we must also see that we are talking, the policy refers, in when you go into the higher education section of the policy, it says, and it refers to our system of education. We talked of Chaucer Kalas. It says when we were talking of our system of education of ancient India, it had emphasized on not only theoretical knowledge, but it had emphasized on various forms of skills, various forms of art, various forms of development of a learner in various aspects, and it had there was emphasis on right from music, dance, drama, skills of warfare, along with the theoretical aspects, those were there. So the policy says that sort of aspect we must have in our learning system. That is, we must focus on all aspects of the learner, right from the traditional craft, right from the traditional folklores, right from the traditional cultural aspects. So that is where the policy says that this should be an policy which should focus on the Indian aspects of education, Indian cultural heritage, and in that aspect, it should also see that the learner is not burdened by certain forms of special forms of theoretical knowledge. Rather than learning should be an interesting process for the learner to learn. It should be reading to read, learning to learn. That emphasis should be there. We must not focus on rote learning. We must focus on experiential learning, because that sort of learning stays with us for a longer time. So the policy says a holistic development, experiential learning, formative assessment, and it says the cultural and the value aspects of our ancient education system should also be inculcated in the formal education system, so that we have culturally trained, culturally people who have cultural murings in their various traditional and other aspects, along with the new technologies. The policy also says that we must have due emphasis on the new skills. We must have new emphasis on technology, and for that the policy says that we must have a special sort of national technological forum which will contribute to various aspects of technology, right from teaching, learning, assessment, and other areas. So that is how the policy talks of inculcating or having technological aspects also in our teaching learning system. So that is, if you see the policy, you will see it is focusing on the lifelong learning aspect. It is focusing on holistic development. It is focusing on uh, cultural aspect, and also giving us new directions in the times to come, because the policy says it is very important to focus on vocational aspect of the learner. When we see to the data, and when we see compare our graduates in the worldwide scenario, we see that only 3 to 4% of our graduates are trained with the world skills or life skills, and that is what they or global skills. So that is what the policy says, that we must have digital literacy, we must have foundational literacy to our learner from very beginning, from the foundational stage itself, so that when the time comes when they pass out from the education system, they have the 21st century skills to be taken up, to be engrossed in the worldwide scenario. So that is the whole aspects of the policy. When you see, when you talk of the evaluation or assessment aspect, the policy says that we must have a holistic assessment. We must have a 360-degree report card, and therefore the policy focuses on various aspects of assessment, right from school education to higher education. It says we must use various tools of assessment. We must assess the learner for various sort of abilities, capabilities he has, not only limited to certain few skills or few content knowledge, but every learner, the policy emphasizes that every learner has special abilities, and we must have provisions that we are able to meet his requirement or the things which are there for everyone in this education system. So it can be skills, it can be, again I'm emphasizing, it can be skills, it can be content knowledge, it can be for art, it can be craft, whatever is there, we must see to the ability of the learner and provide it. So the policy focuses on that aspect also, and it says that we must inculcate vocational education as part of our teaching learning system right from very beginning, because it is felt that we have a very strong boundary of disciplinary and vocational aspects of education. But the policy says we have degrees in the disciplinary education, but we do not have skills there. We have skills in the vocational education, but we do not have parity of degree there. And therefore, what is there? People have more inclination towards the disciplinary education, and the skill aspect of our uh, uh, learners is kept low, and therefore they do not have proper provisions for them in the employment market. So that aspect also the policy says we must look towards in our education system when we look at the learners of 21st century, because the policy says we must have, at least today we have a enrollment ratio. If we begin, the policy says, although in school education we have, in primary education, although we boast of 99% of enrollment, but that gradually decreases as we go into class 10th, and then as we go into class 12th, and then as we go into higher education, it is only about 26% of enrollment ratio. We have been emphasizing on universalization of education at primary level, although we have achieved a significant amount of success in that, because at least now in class 5 or class 6, if you see enrollment, it is almost 97%. Only few areas it is there, but when you go to class 8, when you go to class 10, then when you go to class 12, there is gradual dropout, and that the policy says has to be taken care of. And by 2035, at least in the school education, we must have 100% enrollment, and in higher education we must have at least 50% of enrollment, including disciplinary and vocational education. So the policy emphasizes there should not be hard and fast boundaries between subjects, between disciplinary and vocational education, and that should begin right from school education. And in school education also, from class 6th, which comes under the middle stage, you must have vocational aspects into the teaching learning system, so that those children who have vocational inclination can opt for vocational specialization in class 11th and 12th, and they can go for vocational specialization in higher education. But then there has to be parity between the disciplinary and the vocational, and everyone should have certain vocational training in their journey of education, so that we have those skills. See, lot of skills are a lot of craft, lot of skills, lot of traditional knowledge is being lost because it is not inculcated with degrees. We need, like if you see, there are weavers, there are craftsmen whose craft is becoming lost because they do not give recognition for their craft. Then there are artists, there are various folk dance, folk lores artists who are there, because they do not have recognition in a form of degree. So those things are becoming extinct, and we have to preserve that in by doing something so that we can have proper recognition to these um, um, particular art, particular craft, particular sort of skills which are there in our system, and they have to be inculcated somehow in the formal system. And for that, policy says right from school education, you can have provisions for inviting certain local artisans in your school system of education and giving them opportunity to share their specialities, their expertise with the children, and gradually, if the children have inclination towards them, we can have them as um, uh, 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 formal degrees in our higher education system. So that is what the policy says, that our indigenous craft, our indigenous uh, uh, dances, our indigenous even languages, the policy has emphasized that we must have special emphasis on Indian languages. We must have uh, books, we must have teaching learning material in indigenous language, because for two things. First of all, our languages are very special, and secondly, the divide which is created due to the language barrier has to be taken care of if you have teaching learning material, everything, and other sort of resources in various Indian languages. So there is also where it has emphasized that school education, for higher education, we must have material in various Indian languages, and there is special emphasis on Indian languages, establishing centers for Indian languages. That is also there when you see the policy perspective. So policy is talking of preserving Indian art and craft, preserving Indian languages in various aspects by inculcating it into the formal system of education. And it also says technology can play a very vital role in all this process. That is, for preservation, for storing, for taking it to various sectors, we can inculcate this with technology, because 21st century we have lot of technological tools, we have lot of technological knowledge which helps us to preserve, which help us to conserve, which help us to transfer the uh, knowledge which we have. So that aspect also has to be taken care of. Now if I go back again to the various structures which the policy has said, so for school education they have said probably in next 15 years, as the policy gives a timeline, we will be having a different sort of school structure. We will be having a foundational level, we will be having a preparatory level, we will be having a middle level, and we will be having a secondary level. And at right from beginning of uh, uh, middle level, we will be having vocational specialization in school education. Also, there will be a different sort of binding between the school and the society, because the policy says any educational development is incomplete if the parents and the society members are not included. And this is a concept which was long back, which was there in our ancient education system. All the ashrams and all the gurukuls were somehow associated with the community. They either had to take from the community or they gave something to the community, although they were situated far away, but they were always there, some sort of bindings were there. So that aspect also, community involvement in school education has been emphasized in the policy. And it says that we can have various sort of bodies which can look into, we can invite people who are distinguished people among the parents and ask them to contribute towards the schools in different ways, like it can be teaching learning, it can be other extension activities. That is how the policy envisions our school education. And also it says that in times to come, it is not there that we will have a school cluster sort of system, that every school will be having right from foundational stage to secondary stage, and those, so that we can have resources which are we can have the utilization of resources. So the policy says of school clusters. So in times to come, probably we'll be having school clusters which will have a middle school, which will have a foundational school, and they will be using the resources which are there. Many times we have schools which do not have field, many times we have schools which do not have stage. So when the cluster will be there, they'll be using the resources, and also the human resources will be shared. So school cluster system will be there in times to come, and every school cluster will have different sectors and they will be sharing the resources together. Also, when you talk of teacher training, it says that local teachers will be employed in the school, and those people, those teacher trainees who are doing very well in their educational teacher education programs, they will be offered internship, they will be offered employment in their local area. So we will have local teachers at school level. That will help in two ways. First of all, because at school education level, we have to have foundational education or preparatory education. Emphasis of mother tongue or local language has been emphasized. So if we have local people, at least that affiliation will be there. And also people, the teachers will be there in school. Many times if you have teachers from a faraway places, their presence in school itself becomes a challenge. So that aspect also the policy says we will have local people in local schools, and they will be contributing or uh, um, um, they will be associating with the school in more emotional way also. And those who are having specialization, or those who teacher preparating those trainees in the teacher education who are doing well, will be given priority for getting employment in their local sector. So that is, when you come to the higher education sector, the policy says we will be having multidisciplinary educational institution, and it refers back to Nalanda, Takshashila, Vikramshila, all those ancient universities which were there in India. So it says we will be having higher education institutions which will be multidisciplinary. It says the structure of higher education system in times to come will be three sorts of higher education institution. There'll be a teaching university, there'll be a research university, and there'll be an autonomous college. So we'll be having three sort of higher education institution. And it also says that institutions of higher education will not exist in silos. So in times to come, probably the timeline which the policy gives itself is 2035. So by 2035, probably we will be having higher education institutions which are multidisciplinary. When you look at Banaras Hindu University, as Professor Jirli is already there, we are already multidisciplinary. We were from inception multidisciplinary. We had various faculties. We still have at least 112 faculties which are there, 112 departments which are there in various faculties, in various institutes. And we have a university which has you can name any discipline which is there we are having. But then policy says there has to be a cohesion, there has to be uh, linkages between all these different disciplines which are there, and they will have to have interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary approaches. A person from music can also become a scientist, a person from medicine can also go into teacher training. So that aspect the policy says, and probably it says it was there in our ancient education system like Nalanda, Takshashila. They had various options for the learner to have. So there is where the policy emphasizes that by 2035, we will have such system of higher education. We will have universities will be multidisciplinary. It talks of merus. We'll be having university which will be having different disciplines inculcated together. And this transfer, a teaching university could become a research university. A research university could become a teaching university, on the specialization depending upon the requirements which are there for them. So that is how it says it will be interchangeable. The autonomous colleges which it talks of can become a teaching university or a research university depending upon the time. Also, it says the structure of regulation will become flexible in times to come. We will have a higher education umbrella body which will be having 4 pillars, and these pillars, it says right in the beginning, the policy says the regulatory system will be tight but light. So by 2035, we will be having an umbrella body in terms of Higher Education Commission of India, which will be having 4 pillars. One will be looking after regulation, other will be looking after grants, other will be looking after educational standards, and other will be looking after accreditation. So this will be the structure of higher education regulatory body, and this will probably, it will provide flexibility to institutes that they do not have to run for various sort of accreditation, various sort of grant, another at different places, and at least everything. Again, it says one thing, and universities, the institutions will not be compared. They'll have their own institutional education program. So the comparison will be what you did 5 years earlier in a longitudinal way rather than a horizontal comparison. So like I was just looking at the slides which talked of the development of your institute. So every institute, every institution will have their own individualized education program. So that will be there, how we will be developing, how we'll be looking after the institution. And there'll be a governing body. It talks of, it will be the autonomy for the teachers will be there. They'll have more autonomy in the. And for all this, they say that capacity building for teachers across level, again, it says for capacity building programs for teachers from school education and higher education will be regularly held. Teachers will have flexibility. They will have more autonomy to exercise their, to put in their thoughts in their curriculum, to put in their thoughts in pedagogy, and different sort of pedagogical practices will also be adopted in higher education and school education. So the policy gives flexibility in discipline, policy gives flexibility in assessment, policy gives flexibility in pedagogy, and everything in the light that everything will be contributing towards the development of the learner, and all this development of the learner will be as per our constitutional values of equity, equality, uh, justice. So that is also where the policy says that all this development will be embedded in our constitutional provisions which are there, focusing in equity, focusing in diversity, and leading to development of individuals who will be more culturally developed in aspect of Indian culture, and also developed in sort of world culture, where we will be, again, the policy says the focus of this education policy is to establish India again as Vishwaguru in the world scenario. And with this, I stop my talk. Thank you for the patient hearing.
Thank you, madam, for this wonderful lecture. You have captured the motives of the NEP right from primary education to the higher education, and how NEP has the motive to incorporate the indigenous knowledge, and also how it helps a multidisciplinary approach and also helps the students to widen their skills. Thank you, madam. And if we can allow one or two questions, somebody else, then because we'll have the next Professor Panchamukhi sir is also waiting. And also I want to be Panchamukhi sir's daughters, Pratibha and Dr. Pushkarni, and his son Pauman, and daughter-in-law Akila will also join the group. Thank you. So if anybody has any brief one or two questions, you can please address it to madam.
Can I say something? I do not know whether I have answers to all the questions, but I would definitely invite your observations.
Okay, then we can proceed. We can proceed, madam.
Maybe if somebody has questions, we can address it later also.
Yeah.
Thank you, madam, once again. And now I request Professor Panchamukhi sir, former chairman of CMDR and founder member, to brief us on the something about the book that he has written about CMDR. Please, sir. Professor Panchamukhi sir.
Yes, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Esteemed Chairman, Professor Kailash Chandra Sharma ji, honorable members, I hope some of them are present in their respective places. Today's distinguished speaker, Dr. Anjali ji, my trusted colleagues, our director, CMDR, Professor Panchamukhi, my friends, ladies and gentlemen. I take this opportunity to start with to offer my salutations and obeisances to the respectful memory of the founder president and also the founder members, all the founder members, past who have left us and those who are still with us. It's indeed an opportunity to remember their contributions with gratitude, because in a place like Dharwad of North Karnataka, a national level research institute has come into existence, means that it is entirely due to the contribution of the vision of the founder members and also the incessant efforts full of sacrifices and struggles on the part of the associates with CMDR, and not to forget the contributions of the trusted colleagues of the center right from the beginning. We have with us the colleagues who were the fellow travelers in the development of CMDR, Dr. Anjali, and from the non-academic staff. Are you able to hear or not?
Yes,
Are
sir.
you-
No,
Yes.
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಇದು ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹತ್ರ ಏನಾರು ಹಿಡ್ಕೊ
in the-
ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
Acha, acha. So I need to push myself a little closer to the mic. Is it all right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Veteran colleagues on the academic staff and the non-academic staff, they have been the fellow travelers with the founder members in the course of the development of the center. So I must not forget their contribution as well. I must also not forget the contributions of my own family members who are normally, the family members' contribution is normally overlooked in the process of our official professional developments. But I would like to remember with great appreciation and admiration the contribution of the family members, particularly my wife, who is unwell at present. I hope Professor Basaprabhu asked for the motivation for writing this book, the book on the history of CMDR, which I termed as the vision, struggles for survival, and a story of development of CMDR. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Audible, sir,
Yeah,
some-
you are audible, but there are some disturbances, but still, we are getting your voice, sir. Please continue, sir.
Acha. No, in the course of Professor Anjali's lecture also there was intermittent stoppage. I you will have to bear with the internet connection problems.
Unmute ಮಾಡಬೇಕು mic.
I must be pardoned for little fumbling and partly because I have lost touch with lecturing, which I used to do for 50 years when I was in the profession. But now I'm only doing the writing work.
Mute ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು.
In that background, I hope I will be able to get the necessary energy to speak out. I got the energy when I looked at all the colleagues, my earlier associates, and particularly when I was asked to speak on CMDR's development. So I got added vigor and energy when I was asked to, when I was given the opportunity to lead the past. Well, the immediate motivation was a mandate from my predecessor chairman, Professor M.V. Nadkarni, who said, why not write a book on development of CMDR right from the beginning? And this was the request from a number of well-wishers of CMDR, because they never thought, they were wondering, how did CMDR come into existence in a small place like Dharwad with no air connectivity and difficult road and rail connectivity at that time during 1970s, 1974-75, if I remember it right. And that too, in that too, how is it that the Panchamukhis became instrumental in visualizing the emergence of CMDR? This is because Panchamukhis don't have any political connections. They don't have any economic strength to develop an institution of this type. But still the institution came into existence. I would say it is all the providence. It is all the providential blessings, and it is all the guidance of our mentors, the founder president Vidyaratna Panchamukhi, and I must not forget the contributions of my mentors, Professor Lakdawala. T.T. Lakdawala was my professor in Bombay University, and Professor Gore was the veteran chairman of the center after Professor Lakdawala. Professor Lakdawala was the first chairman, and Professor Gore was the second chairman. And the subsequent luminaries who contributed to the development of CMDR, like Professor Nadkarni and Dr. Chiranjeev Singh, and subsequently a number of persons associates who were with CMDR. They all added the vigor and energy to the process of development of CMDR. I must recall a statement by a famous essayist, Emerson. Some of you might have heard of it, heard of the contributions of Emerson, Lord Emerson. He said, the institution is an elongated shadow of its founders. When Professor Nadkarni asked me to write a story of development of CMDR, I was feeling extremely hesitant, not because I did not know the vicissitudes of development of CMDR. I did know, I was part and parcel of the process of development. But when I was about to write, it only meant that it is the founder members, particularly the Panchamukhis, who were contributing to the development of CMDR. So it is only their name, etc., etc. I was feeling very hesitant, and I had great reservations in accepting the mandate from Professor Nadkarni. But in this context, I must remember the contributions of my own friend and member of the governing council for a long number of years, Dr. Kapoor, who said, you have to mention, because after all, it is the brainchild of Panchamukhis, and you mention it in such a way that the contributions of others are not lost sight of. I try to take care of this in the process of my writing. I must mention that CMDR was born sometime in 1974-75, not in the form it is existing now, but in the as a section in Karnataka Historical Research Society, the centenary celebrated institution of Karnataka, which was started in 1914, and then which has celebrated its centenary also. So it was part of that particular institution in 1974-75 to 1980-81, when the center was registered as a separate society. In 1974-75 to 1980, we undertook studies under the inspiration from the founder president and under the guidance and care of Professor Lakraval, who was the first chairman, as I mentioned. And I must mention that it was their contribution which really inspired us, which really motivated us. It so happened that Karnataka Historical Research Society had a big building, thanks to the grant from government of the then government of Mysore, the governor of Mysore, Sri Dharmaveerji, who made a special grant for the development of Karnataka Historical Research Society, from which the building came into existence. But then there were very few people who were prepared to do work in that big space. We were very young at that time in Bombay University, both Dr. V.R. Panchamukhi and myself. And the idea of undertaking studies in the region to which we belonged started coming in our mind in the years 1974, 75, 76, 77. That is why I should say that CMDR idea was not existing earlier during 1970s. It was only an idea of fulfilling our personal aspirations of not whiling away our time during the vacations. There used to be very long vacations in Bombay University during the summer vacation and Diwali vacation, almost 2.5 months or so. And how much time do you need for taking rest after the 6 or 7 months of teaching and other research responsibilities in the university? We are feeling that we are wasting our time. So the idea occurred to both of us, Dr. V.R. Panchamukhi and myself, that we should do something. We should use the knowledge that we have acquired in the noted universities of Bombay University and Delhi University, from which Dr. V.R. Panchamukhi did his PhD, and Bombay University, I did my MA and PhD. And we thought that we must make use of that particular knowledge in this for the purpose of the region to which we belong. So we started in that way, and we started taking small studies. the first study I still remember is the distribution of cooling facilities in Dharwad. That study was sent to Karnataka government, and it was very kind, the then Mysore government. And Professor Nanjundappa, I must mention this because he took fancy for our interest in the region and in our interest in the research activity for the purpose of the region, and a grant was made to the particular section, socioeconomic research section, and we completed that study. Another study was the printing industry in an educationally advanced city. That also related to Dharwad. And later on, distribution of the benefits from government expenditures, that also related to North Karnataka. Later on, Dr. V.R. Panchamukhi got a prize in the International Order competition sponsored by the Ford Foundation. And it was a very big grant at that time, 1,77,777.77. And somebody mentioned that it is Saptagiri and then one god sitting on the Saptagiri, 1.777777.77. So it was an interesting analogy, but in any case, we got a big grant, and he did that study on income distribution, international trade and income distribution. Very interesting study. Later on, when I was invited by the government of Karnataka as a member of the think tank of the then Hegde government, Dr. V.R. Panchamukhi was also a special invitee for the study group. An input-output table for Karnataka was developed by CMDR. This is the first ever input-output table for Karnataka state, the then Mysore state, and it was very well received. This was done by Professor V.R. Panchamukhi. So like this, small studies were undertaken, and by 1980, we had done a number of studies. One may ask a question, how is it that being a member of the staff or faculty of Bombay University, both of you did such work? Bombay University was kind enough to recognize our academic interest, research interest, and Professor Lakravala was very kind enough to encourage us. And in 1980-81, we thought, and it was at the suggestion of Professor Lakravala, that we may register it as a separate society. In 1980-81, 80, I think we have the registration certificate from societies, under Societies Registration Act, and we became a body, registered body. When we were undertaking studies in our personal capacity, not to while away our time, we were very thrilled, we were enjoying our work. There was joy of research, there was joy of involvement in the activities in that part of the region, which was a relatively neglected region, because it was neither in good sight of Bombay government, the then Bombay government, nor in the good sight of the Mysore government, because the Mysore government had all the interest in that part of the region, the royal region, and Bombay government, that part of the region, was predominantly Maharashtrian, and we were all aliens. So in our own state, we were strange. So this was a real problem for us. We did not have personal economic advantages. We did not have any political connections, but the thrill and joy of completing the studies was inexplicable. In those days, It was a great experience for all of us. When we got registered as a separate body, along with thrill and joy, that entered another element, that is tension and anxiety. Why? We had to fulfill the rules and regulations of the society register under Society Registration Act, and we continue to enjoy the thrill and joy of undertaking the studies of right, but then there were also requirements of fulfilling the official rules and regulations. I must mention to you that from that day onwards, 1980-81 onwards, till the day, I should say, I retired, I stepped down as chairman in 1921 or something like that. We conducted the annual meetings meticulously without any like a religious code of conduct. So there was absolutely no question of deviating from the rules and regulations, which I have mentioned in the book also. The book consists of 8 chapters, and one of the chapters deals with the governing council resolutions and the rationale behind the governing council resolutions. So we were very meticulous in fulfilling the official requirements of Societies Registration Act. So we conducted the annual meetings, and our meetings in those days, I'm quite sure that particular tradition has continued even now. Our meetings in those days were not just a couple of hours meetings, but we had continuously from 11 o'clock to 6:30 continuously, with a break for lunch. So it was a very serious affair, and all the members used to take interest in the deliberations. And I must thank all of them for the advice that they gave, the guidance they provided for our activities throughout. So this was the great experience for us, because I was a good professor in public finance in Bombay University, all right, but I did not have experience as an administration person. I did not have any knowledge of administrative rules and regulations. But then there was always a thrill in knowing something. I must also mention to you that I do not know the present memorandum of association. The memorandum of association that was approved by this registrar of societies was drafted by me. I did not know the ABCD of the memorandum of association, etc. But it was a struggle. It was a discussion with it was a result of discussion with the legal experts and so on. But in any case, I should say it was a struggle and enjoyable. And when it came out as something which was useful for the institution, I felt the joy. And all of us were feeling very thrilled by the type of involvement that we had, and not only we, along with us, the colleagues, the members, elderly members. I must mention that Professor Lakdawala, when he was the deputy chairman of the Planning Commission and he was the chairman of the center, CMDR, he conducted the meeting of CMDR under the premises of under the aegis of the Planning Commission also. When Professor Gore was the vice chancellor of Bombay University, he conducted the meeting in his chamber in Vice Chancellor Bombay University chamber. So this was the type of involvement, commitment, dedication of the elderly members, and we had an interesting blend of the guidance, the mentorship of the guidance and the advice of the senior members, and the enthusiasm and the thrill of work of the youngsters like us. So it was indeed a very enjoyable experience. in those days. In this book, I have tried to mention, I have tried to see whether the experience of CMDR has anything comparable with the experiences of other research institutions abroad and also in India. Of course, my study of the institutions abroad and also in India is a cursory study. It's not fully based upon the authentic data, discussions with the people, etc., etc. But in any case, the cursory study based upon the internet sources provided a lot of insights to me. The MIT was started, but then it was immediately MIT in Harvard University in the US. It was started, but then it had to discontinue on account of the civil war in US. The London School of Economics was started, but then it was a affair of the couples. That is the activity of the couple, that's Sidney Webb and his wife. But then it also faced a lot of difficulties. I said the difficulties that the institutions face is not unique for CMDR. CMDR did face a number of difficulties of instability of the staff, faculty, instability of the resources, inadequate infrastructure, and so on. But we overcame all these issues by the sheer thrill and enthusiasm of all the associates. So we enjoyed it. I must, as I said, when I'm saying something about CMDR, I feel as if I am 35, 40-year-old young man. I'm now 84, 83, 84. So this type of enthusiasm I feel when I'm recalling, recounting, reliving the CMDR development. I was trying to see whether there is any theory of institutions possibly can be developed on the basis of our experience in CMDR and also the experiences of the institutions, other institutions. I have listed down some of the insights, conceptual insights, because I have been talking of the theoretical aspect, conceptual aspect, not just empirical aspect in research. But these aspects would be certainly very interesting and they can be further probed. What are the major aspects of the CMDR development? The major aspects of CMDR development are rich value heritage. I would put this as the number one aspect of it. Because when we got the grant from the government and some grants from the funding agencies, there were indications to us that some share has to be parted with, has to be given to some people in the administration. But we said nothing doing. If we know we have the knowledge of survival strategy without any grants and without any financial support, but we can certainly survive. So we sent back the grant to the government of Karnataka when there was an indication that we can't share anything of some grants, some initial grant, 1 lakh, which was given as a library grant, thanks to the contribution, thanks to the intervention of Professor Chandra. So the value heritage, which we inherited from Karnataka Historical Research Society, with which we were associated right from the beginning. And then the second aspect which I would like to emphasize is multidisciplinarity in thinking, multidisciplinarity in research, which Professor Anjali also emphasized as a part of major contribution of NEP. I appreciate that. But then the major issue is what is meant by multidisciplinarity. There are different terms used to multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary. So these terms have to be properly understood in order to, it is not just bringing in various discipline experts together on one table, which we are doing in CMDR at present. We had, am I going beyond the time? Please tell me, because I just lose the track of time when I'm speaking about
No,
CMDR.
sir, you may get scoldings from the family members also because it is stressful to you. I think
No,
should not
no,
can limit
no,
it.
no stress. I do have a lot of energy. So this is another aspect which CMDR emphasized. The aspect which I would like to emphasize with regard to CMDR's activities is the emphasis on action research and micro perspectives. The merit goods and merit bads, education, health, tobacco, these are some of the things which we emphasized in our research. And those things we need to be continued. The Professor Anjali ji also emphasized about the NEP's contribution to teaching institutions, research institutions, research universities, etc., etc. It is certainly very important. But then I would say that teachers would like to be researchers and researchers would like to be teachers. So there is complementarity between teaching and research, which cannot be put in separate isolated compartments. It is for this reason that we emphasized teaching in CMDR as a part of our program, and that teaching initiatives were made available through our RMCs, research, research, what is that?
Methodology.
Research methodology course.
Methodology courses. Yes, research methodology courses. In fact, I must mention that our research methodology courses were highly appreciated by ICSFR. ICSFR's chairman, former chairman, who happened to be my brother, he has made that point in his foreword. So these things are very important aspects which we need to continue. And we have also had taken a vow that we should not depend upon the government grant, because government grant would be associated with so many strings and so on. But then after some time, we realized that without government grant, the institutions cannot survive. The MIT, the London School of Economics, they started with the government grant as a major source of their funding. And we cannot avoid the government grant. Government has a responsibility, but then no funding agency should consider us, or no government should consider us, research institutions, as earning institutions. We are not an earning institution. We are a spending institution. Research institutions are essentially spending institutions. And research institutions will get the assistance from the public agencies, not as a quid pro quo basis, but as a recognition of our interest in the research and socially useful activities of helping people and so on. So this is the type of initiative that have been emphasizing. And I feel that the contributions of our colleagues should be certainly appreciated in this. I must mention the contributions of Professor Kadekudi particularly, because he was responsible in encouraging the activities of research and and also teaching. He introduced us to some of the foreign scholars and so on. So that was a real contribution from Professor Kadipudi in this context. So I really feel that we need to remember on the occasion of the Founders Day, the contributions of not only the founders, not only the founders and also the governing council members of all these years, and also the present governing council members, but also the research faculty, administrative faculty, who have all contributed to the administrative and library faculty. I see Jayashree, who has done tremendous work in developing the library of CMDR. But to the director, my earnest request is that we need additional infrastructure, particularly the building, the campus, and so on. So that needs to be paid a very significant attention, because I have myself, as you know, I have myself contributed my own library, donated my own library to the center. But then there is very little space to store. I understand. I hope instead of myself storing them, it is better to keep the books, my very loved books, which I loved them all through the years, in one place under the patronage of the center, which has protected me, which has guided me, which has promoted me. So I do hope that the center to take care of this. These are some of the things which I wanted to highlight as a part of this book. This is a about 250 and odd page book, which I do hope that people would take interest in reading and getting the thrill of participating in the development of a small institute, as Nayantara keeps on telling, small and beautiful institute. But then this small and beautiful institute no longer should remain only small. It should grow as a functional institute with many faculty members, with many associates, and fairly dependable infrastructure. And I'm quite sure that the present government council and the general body, and under the able leadership of our esteemed chairman and dynamic initiative of our present director, will certainly take note of these requirements to the center to develop the center to further heights, take the center to further heights. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share. I would not say only share, but the opportunity to relive the past, relive the development of the center, CMDR, which we, in Kannada, there is a song, Munde Bandare, Hayabedi, Hinde Bandare, Vadebedi, Nimma Kandavanantu, Ambedi, Tappuli Yemakurmani. It is not a Tappuli, it is not an half one. It is certainly well taken care of, but I do hope that the center would get proper nourishment and nurturing by all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for writing about CMDR. And now we'll proceed to request our chairman, Professor Kailash Chandra Sharma ji, to release the book, and I request.
Sir,
Chairman, sir.
Chairman, sir, we request you to release the book, sir.
Yes. So, You have shared this screen to me.
Sir, you have been given the permission, you can share your screen and you can go to the CMDR website. On the screen. Yes. So now.
So what is the mechanism now? I have shared it. I have opened the website of this.
Yes, sir. This is the release of book now. We will be sharing the soft copy of this book to all the members shortly, and we will be sending the hard copies also.
Okay.
And now we request you to deliver the presidential address.
Thank you. Okay. So am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. But not visible, you can put on your camera.
I think some problem is there in video.
Please, please.
I'm not seen. My face is not seen to you. Anyway, if I am audible, I'll say some thing.
Yes, sir, your voice is clear, sir. Please continue, sir.
Okay. So, Honorable Professor Panchamukhi ji,
Yes. Thank you.
my profound regards to you. I could not meet you physically, but today is a big day that I could see and listen to you virtually. And a release of the book is also being done in this session. Professor Anjali Bajpayee has given a very, I think it is a brief of the National Education Policy 2020. She said that the English version has 60 and odd pages, while the Hindi version has more than 100 pages. But if you go through the National Education Policy, every word of it can be extended to many hundred pages. So why I am saying in to begin with about this National Education Policy, because the main thrust of this education policy is multidisciplinarity. And this multidisciplinarity came into mind. It became a vision of the visionaries of this CMDR 4 or 5 decades back. It was thought of the multidisciplinary education, teaching and research. And that is how this CMDR ultimately came into existence. So 50 years back, if it can be thought of that this is the requirement, and this requirement is not the requirement of present day generation, it is the requirement of the generations to come. So very nicely she has presented, and it is an apt lecture in the memory of the great founders of CMDR. I think about the book, we have again listened to Professor Panchamukhi ji in a brief. And when I was listening to him, it reminded me of the establishment of the Indian Institute of Sciences in Bangalore. And this idea was of late Shri Tata. And he thought of in 1989-90 And after 5 years, it came into existence. And that too after the death of Sri Jamshedji Tata. But he was an established industrialist. He had financial strength. So along with the intellectual and financial strength, it took 5 years to establish. And as you have narrated, no political and no financial strength, only the intellectual strength and passion to work for the society. This is the result of bringing to existence CMDR. And I think the present the faculty and the related other related this government governing council, governing body members, they have a great legacy. We have to maintain that. That is the main, I think, challenge and opportunity also. Only two things Dr. Panchamukhi has said for us, for the present generation. Addition of the infrastructure, we have to strengthen the infrastructure. And also this unit should be a vibrant functional unit for many, many years to come. It is established with the passion for doing something for our society. And as he has said, 4-5 decades back, it was established in a very small place, though culturally rich area. Still, as compared to other cities, it was a small place. Still, this by the efforts of the founder members, many stalwarts from various walks of life, political, administrative, social and economic areas, academicians and researchers, they came to CMDR, they discussed various these aspects of society and how CMDR can contribute to society. So it is directly seen in this national education policy. Great effort has also been mentioned about the social connect of the academic institutions. So this, our center is to begin with, from the beginning it is for the society. Whatever academics is done in the center, that is for the society. And finally, so many, I think government has adopted so many these researches, conclusions of CMDR in formalizing their policy. So that is a great achievement. They should continue. And I'm sure the present our faculty and establishment of CMDR will be fulfilling all the aspirations of such great persons, such great academicians. And we can, I think, give a tribute by continuing that high level of the research for the society. And this national education policy has also included, she has Dr. Anjali Bajpayee has mentioned many things, but she has also mentioned about the Bharatiya Gyan Parampara, Indian knowledge system. I think this Indian knowledge system has been incorporated in researches, but that is the most urgent requirement of the generations today. Our education since long, even after independence, it included a development only for the physical and intellectual part. Somehow the emotional part was lacking. And NAP also says that head, heart and hand, they should be taken care of. But the youth should be enlightened with the existence also. We are not individuals. Everyone is linked with the society, with this Srashti, Prakriti, nature. So that uniqueness that should be part of the development of the youth, that is called as integral development. I think we can provide some of the courses like the research methodological courses, training courses. We can include some of the courses on this part also, providing how the human values are important for a development of the complete man. I think with these words, I'll again thank Professor Panchamukhi ji. Instead of his health issues, he could virtually join us, and I'm sure every one of us have benefited. I also congratulate Dr. Anjali ji for giving such a nice talk, and director and faculty members. They need to be appreciated for organizing such a nice event. With these words, I close this part of my lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your good words and motivation. I expect CMDR to grow significantly under your leadership and chairmanship, and the governing council, and our director, and the faculty and staff. Sir, can we, if there are some observations? Okay. Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Ya Kulkarni to present vote of thanks.
Good evening to all. I am happy to propose vote of thanks for this important event on the behalf of entire CMDR family. Today is the important day for CMDR as we are celebrating Founders Day in the memory of Sri Vidyaratna R.S. Panchamukhi, and the release of the book Vision Struggles for Survival and Development, a story of development of CMDR. First of all, I extend a special note of gratitude to Professor P.R. Panchamukhi, our great teacher, founder member, former chairman of CMDR, for publishing a book and sharing the insights of the essence of the book with us. The book includes origin, development, challenges, and the way forward. I find this book very useful for the researchers who are interested in the study of institutional development. Thank you very much, sir. Our deepest thanks to Professor Anjali Bajpayee, Honorary Professor, CMDR, and Dean, Faculty of Education at Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi, for delivering an insightful lecture on Education Policy 2020 implications for next generation on this occasion. We are also thankful to Professor, our chairman, Professor Kailash Chandra Sharma, for chairing the session and releasing the book on CMDR. I am also thankful to Professor Basav Prabhu Jirli sir, Director of CMDR, for warm welcome and strong support in successfully completing this program. I am also thankful to distinguished invitees, namely Professor Selvaraju ji, Professor Geetarani, Sri Hasur ji, Professor Pushkarni Panchamukhi, Srimati Pratibha Panchamukhi, and Sri Pahuman Panchamukhi. I am also thankful to our faculty members, staff, students for actively participating in this program. Thank you once again. Thank you once again. Thank you.